So what does Arc Raiders, Resident Evil Requiem, and Crimson Desert all have in common? Well, they're all really, really good games. That's what I can say about it. And one of the reasons why they are so good is because they are so well optimized. They can run on so many systems, so many people have access to it, and the performance gets out of the way of the gameplay. So the developers can make a good game, and they even optimize certain specific graphics features in order to make the game better. Now, this is just one aspect, obviously, of what makes these games very good. It's a huge contrast to what we've been seeing a lot. We've been seeing a lot of Unreal Engine 5 games that run like total shit. But on the surface, maybe the graphics look good, but it doesn't really seem like it's worth it when you have to use a bajillion levels of upscaling and frame generation just to get playable performance. I'm looking at you, Borderlands 4, and that's on the topic of Unreal Engine 5. Arc Raiders is also Unreal Engine 5, but this game is super positively reviewed. Now, I haven't even had time to play this game that much. Man, there's too many freaking good games right now. 24-hour peaks of 194,000 people, but this is a game that uses Unreal Engine 5, but they make it run very well. Here's it running on a 7-year-old graphics card, the RTX 2070 Super, and this game uses ray tracing and still gets performance like this. And I would argue that the ray tracing actually adds to the experience, whereas in most games, it's more like a graphical showcase and gives you shit performance. But in Arc Raiders, they use the ray trace global illumination. Now, global illumination is basically how the light reacts in real time, and also it can change over time throughout the day. You can have different weather environments, you can have different times of days changing throughout the entire match, which means you get a dynamic system that reacts to the player, that makes the environment more fun to play in. It's using a ray trace probe system for its global illumination, which is a very efficient way of doing it. Basically, there's all these points in the space and they all cast rays to get updates for the lighting information in real time. There is flaws with the system because it runs very, very smoothly. So in my opinion, I think it's great that they make a system that runs well, but still achieves a lot of the goals. And this is a concept of optimization itself that so many developers seem to have lost, getting 90-95% of the quality for a lot less performance. And this same type of thing is going on with Crimson Desert. Now, this game isn't out right now, but man, people are freaking raving about it. Basically, it's an open world single player game. I thought it was an MMO. That's why I wasn't paying attention to it that much, to be honest. But this game has ray tracing as well in it. It's also a ray trace global illumination system, which makes a ton of sense for an open world game because you want the time of day to be able to change. You want different features in the environment to light up things, and the world is so big that you can't necessarily go through and bake everything into the game. It just doesn't make sense from a logistical standpoint. They're ray tracing on cards that honestly aren't that good at ray tracing, and they're getting solid performance at native 4K resolution.
We were achieving over 80 FPS on average. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have a single stutter. I didn't have a single dip. I didn't have any sections of the game where it's like, oh, you walk in this building and it drops to 30. Nothing like that.
Now, I'm gonna have to be the judge of this when the game does truly come out, but that is a very good sign on like last gen AMD cards that honestly weren't that good at ray tracing. And the way I think they're doing this is also a compromised approach. You know, they're optimizing the ray tracing for this game, because if you do look at a lot of the things, the foliage and stuff I think looks pretty unstable, and I think that's because they're using a pretty low resolution set of foliage, and even the environment doesn't look like it's super stable as well, because I think they're using a pretty low ray count global illumination with the ray tracing. It has to do a lot more denoising in order to make it look kind of stable. So that leads to less stability, but it still looks really good to me. You're making that optimization of using a lower ray count in the game to make the environments and the ray tracing run better, because it still gives you the effect of what the lighting should look like when it's changing, but it doesn't cost as much performance. A huge point about this game, how alive the world feels, and that ray tracing goes to exemplify that experience. So they're using the graphics not just for advertising or marketing. Now, they're using graphics to make the game more fun. Engine is the Black Space engine, and that is a custom engine by them, so they're not using like Unreal Engine 5 to try to do this shit. But another game that is based on a custom engine is Resident Evil Requiem. Now, over 100,000 players right now, and I'm recording this almost a week after it launched. 138,000 right now at the 24-hour peak. This game has sold a ton of copies. A lot of people are freaking playing it, and so many people are raving about the game. There's nothing that I like more than you just hop into a game and it just runs well. You don't have to tinker with it. It doesn't look like shit. The performance just gets out of the way and lets you play the game. I love that. And people have been raving about the graphics for Resident Evil Requiem.
This is gameplay? Oh my god! What the f? Dude, this looks insane!
Just look at this! God, it's something about they got something right about it's all down to light, right? It's all down to the rendering of light. Damn! You know, goddamn, I swear, I don't know, I don't usually geek out about graphics in games because I stopped caring about that a while ago, but I can't help but geek out about this. This just looks good.
And the reason why a lot of people are saying this is because it does offer path tracing. Now, a lot of these streamers and, gameplay YouTubers and stuff, they're going to be using the highest graphics settings in the game if possible because they probably got a really, really powerful PC. But this game still looks amazing, and you don't need to use ray tracing at all. I tested on a bunch of different graphics cards. I've actually almost beaten the game by now. What is this actually like if you're to play this on a PS5? Right here is the RX 6700, the PS5 GPU in the PC. And at 1440p native settings, no upscaling whatsoever, on high, we can get about 60 FPS. If we bump it up to 4K, which is similar to what the PS5 would probably be doing, and so our FPS is still in like the mid 60s. It's looking pretty good. But FSR 3 performance isn't amazing. It looks fine, I would say. You can even get away with some ray tracing if you upscale to 1440p and just turn the ray tracing down to the lowest setting, which is normal. That moves me on to the RTX 3070, the 16GB one, if you saw my last video that I upgraded physically, which was freaking nuts. 1440p native on high settings, you can get over 100 FPS easy while playing the game. And if you were to use a little bit of upscaling at 4K, you can still get about 70 FPS. It was just a great gaming experience. Like, these are cards that are playing at these high resolutions. The game looks great. Okay. I can't really complain at all. And if you really want to, you can turn on some ray tracing, like the high reflections in the game. You can get like 60 to 70 FPS at like balanced DLSS on high settings. We jump up to the RTX 3080, which you can find for only about $300 on the used market right now, and it's still a very fast card. At native 4K, you can get a surprisingly good amount of FPS. The only problem is it does start to run out of VRAM because it only has 10 gigabytes. So if you drop it down to DLSS quality, which helps manage the VRAM a little bit, you can get like a lot of FPS. And this is 4K. That just feels great to play. If you even want to, you can do some path tracing on the RTX 3080. This isn't the way I'd recommend to play, to be honest, but the game does look pretty damn good. I am impressed with it. What's cool about the path tracing is I don't think it's necessary at all to use it, but you can have it in the game, and hopefully down the line, we'll get GPUs that can handle that performance. Now, I mentioned the RTX 2070 Super earlier. This card surprisingly can do really well. Now, if you go to 1440p native, no upscaling on high settings, this card can get around 60 FPS, which is pretty good, but you might notice that there is a lot of stutters going on, and it doesn't look great for that. And it's because this card only has 8 gigabytes of VRAM. I don't really blame the developers for wanting to push more than 8 gigabytes of VRAM in 2026. So if you drop down the textures to like medium and you turn on some upscaling to alleviate VRAM consumption a little bit, and most of the time you can get about 70 FPS in the game. Now, moving on to AMD's top-end GPU this generation, the RX 9070 XT. If this doesn't show you just how well this game runs, I don't know what to say, because literally 4K native performance on max settings just without any ray tracing, you get over 100 FPS on the 9070 XT. I mean, that is an awesome experience to play on. I have no complaints, no notes whatsoever. And if you want to use some ray tracing, you can go down to FSR 4, which looks very good. FSR 4 quality, I don't even think you'd be able to notice the difference between this and native 4K, to be honest. And you can get 70 to 80 FPS with ray trace reflections in the game. Something I find interesting about the AMD cards in this title is that they don't even let you use path tracing. And this is because path tracing requires DLSS ray reconstruction to even run in this game. Because I think there was so little ray counts going on for the path tracing that the denoising has to work overtime, and the ray reconstruction from NVIDIA was the only one they found to work good enough. Even though AMD does have an alternative to this, and they maybe could integrate it in the future, but they obviously haven't done it right now. There's also the RX 9060 XT 8GB that I tested, and this card at native 1440p on high settings gets over 100 FPS consistently. Just such a good experience to play on. And this card, if it wasn't the GPU apocalypse again, and all the GPUs are disappearing. This card has typically been going before all that was about $270. I don't like that it has 8 gigs of VRAM, but like it runs and it runs it really freaking well because this game is just very well optimized. Now, another cheap graphics card that I tested is the Intel Arc B580, and this one kind of disappointed me. Obviously, the game doesn't have Intel's XeSS upscaler in it, which does suck because the upscaler looks pretty good. You're stuck using like the FSR versions in the game, so like FSR 3, and that doesn't look nearly as good. But I was also disappointed in the performance on the B580 in this game. It really struggled to get the game running at reasonable settings. I'm showing you more gameplay from like the second half of the game. I think Intel needs to do some more optimizations with the drivers specifically for this game, or they're missing something at a hardware level that makes it run better. Now, I will say I also tested this on the RTX 5080. Nowadays around like a $1,300 GPU, which is insane. But I wanted to show you kind of what it's capable of. So at native 4K on max settings, just not using ray tracing, gets over 120 FPS, super smooth gaming experience. And also check out the VRAM consumption, that is insane. It's at like 13 gigs or something. And if you just turn on DLSS quality with high ray tracing, you can get in the 80s of FPS up here. And because this card is fast enough, you can use path tracing at reasonable levels, which kind of does add to the gaming experience, but it's also not necessary at all. You can get around 70 to 80 FPS with performance upscaling at 4K. You could even try turning on frame generation if you really want to lean into all the NVIDIA technologies and stuff. Then you can go about from 60 FPS to about 120 if you use the frame gen at that point. I'm on the RTX 5070 at the moment, and we have settings of graphics turned to the high. What language am I speaking in? Upscaling technology as well. No DLSS is on at all. Look at this. Native 4K. High settings. Why does it say 300 FPS? Okay, that's better. 84 FPS, 85 maybe even, at native 4K high settings on a 5070. Now, this isn't the cheapest graphics card in the world, but it is pretty mid-range as far as things go. That is impressive performance, guys. In the game, like, are you gonna tell me that this looks bad? I'm not spoiling anything here, by the way. This is pretty early area in the game. I don't really know where else to go, because if I really like show you anything else, I have saves much later in the game. Even I have this door open, and that's like a bit of a spoiler, I guess. Okay, like I guess we can like walk around the environment a little bit and just see. This is no ray tracing or anything. This game still looks freaking glorious, guys. Because this really shows what point, like how far can rasterized graphics really go? Oh, there's a guy there. I don't want to deal with that right now. But this isn't using ray tracing at all right now, and things still look absolutely great. Okay, now you can use ray tracing, and let's go ahead, go to graphics, and let's just turn on ray tracing high. From my experience, if you turn on ray tracing low, then it doesn't really, like, it isn't worth it. Like, it's too pixelated and stuff. But this, I think, is only the reflections in the game. So you tell me if you think the performance trade-off is worth it. I will say, even being able to get 30-something FPS on a 5070 at native 4K ray tracing is kind of nuts. But like, does this feel worth it at all? I don't see any ray traced reflections, and we hit a massive performance hit because of it. So up to you if you think it's worth it. Obviously, you can get it running if you really want to, and you can get over 60 FPS on the 5070 with ray tracing upscaled to 4K. So it's not like it's bad at all, but I don't think the ray traced reflections are worth it. Which leads me to believe that pretty much the only form of ray tracing I think could be worth it in this game is using the path tracing. It's pretty demanding. Yeah, path tracing is on now at the same upscaling setting, so balanced up to 4K. Now we're getting our FPS cut in half again, pretty much. This can look significantly very cool. It can also have some visual problems. Maybe the light doesn't respond as well sometimes because it's using ray tracing, so it's casting rays, and then there's not enough rays, so it has to accumulate a bunch of rays over time, which means the light doesn't respond nearly as quickly, even though it can still look really good. But you can lead to things like persistent reflections, where even if the character is talking and you see a reflection of the character, then that thing isn't actually reflected in the reflections, which doesn't really make our brains make sense of it. But you can see things like, say, like this reflection here of the West Wing, and you can see that reflection there. I don't think that would normally be there. There's also the green light is casting global illumination, so it's turning this a little bit green compared to the other things. It just blends more realistically. But really the path tracing in this game is, I think of it as almost like a future-proofing thing, because you don't need the ray tracing, you don't need the path tracing for the game to still look good, and that really leans into the optimization. Now, one of the big optimizations with Requiem is because you're in an enclosed environment for a lot of the time, which does make the graphics easier to run, but also they didn't like add a whole bunch of features just because the game is going to be easy to run. They don't force you to use ray tracing or anything like that. They make the game very, very runnable and accessible. And that's what developers really should be targeting. Like, you see what the average GPU is, and a lot of people don't have the most powerful thing in the world. Obviously, when you start to go more outdoor environments, there's a scene where there's a lot of fire and stuff, and this does hit your performance a ton. Kind of surprised me because a lot of the game runs so well, but it seems like this engine, once you get into larger environments, it runs a little bit more poorly. That's what these games I've been talking about in this video do. They optimize the engine for performance. And they also only prioritize graphical features that are going to improve the gameplay experience and your immersion within the game, which I think is just smart. All developers should be doing this rather than just integrating the latest technologies because it was in some kind of marketing somewhere, doing the checklist like, oh, we have every single upscaler in the game. Okay, cool. And oh, we have ray tracing, and oh, frame generation too. Got to make sure we have that shit. But like, we don't need all those things. Make the game run well. Make the game look and feel how you want it to feel for the gameplay experience you're targeting. And these games really are just showing something special. Obviously, Crimson Desert has not come out yet, so I'll be the judge of that when it does come out. But it really is looking good. And the technical previews we've seen from like Digital Foundry, also everybody who's played the game in person, seems like they've pretty much agreed that the tech is running well and the game is very fun. It's a very immersive world, and the graphics and the engine really lend to that. They built it for the game. You can see the games are succeeding if they run well on more kinds of hardware and it's more accessible to more people. I feel like we're at a point where the graphics are good enough. Just make the game run well. You know, I don't think you need anything that crazy. Now, maybe ray tracing could aid in the development process or something, so maybe you might want to target that, but make the game run well first. Let me know your guys' thoughts on it. I've almost beat Resident Evil Requiem. I think I have. I honestly don't know how much. They throw a lot of twists at you. I don't know how much game is actually left. It's been really good so far. I've enjoyed it. What do you guys think about it? Have you played the games? How does it run on your system? Because I love seeing this, and just you load up a game and it's like, wow, it just runs well. The same type of thing happened with Battlefield 6. Like, that game just runs well on so much different hardware, and I can't really complain about it. Like, it gives the game accessibility to a ton of different people. I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. Hope you have a good one, and peace. We at 200K now, baby.